Okay, hi everyone, or hi Duane, hi Eva. Glad to be on the African show. Okay, Duane, while waiting for our friends to come, I would have liked them to be here so that I ask these questions and I translate, but I don't know what's happening. Okay, Duane, the new presentation can be considered by some as a kind of lion in sheep's clothing. For stealthily inciting the masses to rebel against the authorities, the religious, spiritual, or called political, economic, and the monetary authorities. And you do this through your new books and studied discourses. So, what defense can you give against this charge, Duane?
Am I already charged again? Huh?
You're always charged.
Yes, I'm always charged. Okay, yes. That's why I have a lot of big credit cards. And yes, to answer Mr. Bill's question there, yes, in the winter here, Bill, when we have daylight savings time, it backs it up an hour. So Pacific time, we're 9 a.m. For Charles. And so it's 11 o'clock your time in Texas. So that's where the little misunderstanding comes in. Because usually it's 10 o'clock, and we'll go back to 10 probably in about April when there's a daylight savings time, because it's too late. 10 o'clock's too late for Charles because it gets into like 2 o'clock a.m. or something. So anyhow, just wanted to answer that for everybody. And the Skype calls go off of Pacific time. So we choose a time, so it's off Pacific time. So whatever time it is in the rest of the world, that's what it is, but all the Skype calls are off Pacific time. So the African ones are 9 a.m., and the UK, which are twice a month like the Africans, are 10 a.m. So anyhow, to kind of answer your question there, and yes, it does look like this, that we're upsetting things. Because we're not just going along with whatever is being created out there. And, like a lot of people, they just go do their things. Like, there's, a lot of people that work in the city and they go to a store and they buy their food. Well, there's still farmers out there that farm and grow their own food. They don't go to the store. So you can say, well, are they rebelling against the system because it's come to the point where, people live in the city basically, or they live in these city communities and they buy from the market and what's produced there. Okay. So then the farmer becomes a little bit of an oddball, doesn't he? Just like the Indians and what have you. The natural way of life kind of just disappears for what we call the modern society. So the new presentation, yes, it appears to be that, and it takes a few minutes for people to understand that no, there is no rebellion. It looks like it's like, okay, we're telling people about the chemtrails and HARP and the poisoning of the world and the fires and everything else, and I'm explaining the psychology of what's going on here and the marketing ploy of the governments, etc., because this is human farming. And so, most people seem to be fine with this. So when I voice, you might say, we'll just say an opinion, or I write something accordingly that doesn't agree with the system, it looks like I'm rebelling against the system. But no, it really has nothing to do with that. It's a matter of showing people how to see what's taking place and providing a reference that is a comparison to possibly making a better choice. And the idea here is that as the person becomes more aware and sees what's really going on here, especially the overall poisoning of the planet and the depopulation agenda that's going on, that's very real, that sounds, spooky conspiracy theory, whatever, okay? But it's right in front of everybody. And the idea is to become more aware and decide a new position. That's simply it. We're not rebelling, but it looks like, because see, we can be labeled as rebels simply because we're not agreeing with the demise of the planet. And this has always been. This is nothing new. Because again, people in control, they must create distortion. They have to create distortion to have the control, just like the monetary system. It's all a distorted system. It looks to be something, but now everybody chases money. And for what? The end result is you got nothing, because it has nothing to do with your real awareness. But at the same time, while you're here, everything is workable, creatively workable, simply because that's why you're in creation. But each person decides if they're going to become more aware or not, if they want to see a bigger picture and eventually discover the real universes. So that's a big choice. But when it comes to rebelling or what have you, no, we're simply showing people how to become more aware and step up with us. But the idea is that, again, like anything, it's an appearance of things, which I understand, and people can read something that we've done or whatever. But, until you really step up and become involved, look at yourself. It takes a while, but you just have to decide to step up. And so, again, there's going to be a lot of things said about us. I go through it all the time. Just let people decide whatever as we go along. We're demonstrating what we're doing, but our focus is on the all-natural environment, and this includes everything. So as long as we're on the earth, we're doing something here. So, yeah, and it's not a rebellion. It's just making sense of things. So we don't have to. We have the right not to agree, but the system has been created to where you're supposedly supposed to agree, you see, but it's kind of like voting. You have the right to vote. See, they give you that idea, but you also have the right not to vote. They don't tell you that, though. See, they prompt you to where you should vote. That's the idea. That's the prompt. But again, you really do have the choice. And that's part of the wake up, too, to see these little things of making that decision. So go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, thank you, Duane. Yeah, another concern. We have the real guides, and we want to be in a close contact with them, even though they are always in contact with us. And I don't know whether to say what words to use when we trust and we have confidence and we have, would I say, faith or the belief that the real guides will do this and that, and we take them for who they are and their words and all the like. Is it some form of belief in them or having faith in them, or what? When we come to depend on what the real guides say, and we take their real guidance, their real education very seriously. So is it like we are believing in them, or we have faith in them, or what, Duane?
Well, it's going to be different with each person, I understand, and it takes a while, like anything. It's like when we were children growing up with our parents. We didn't always trust our parents, For the most part, we did. They would tell us things, or dinner's ready, or, let's go watch TV or something. Wow, that was all great. Just automatically did it. Okay, I get to eat. I get to watch TV. I get to watch cartoons. Okay, everything is great. But then all of a sudden, one day, maybe you got to go to the doctor or the dentist or something, and or even go to school when we're young. Some kids, they don't want to go. They're 5 years old, and it's going to be their first day in school, and they cry because, again, they're out of their area. And so, yeah, it's really not any of these things, as we're growing up. Realistically, for the most part, even when people are religious, do they teach their children those things? Belief, hope, faith, whatever, all these ideas. Do they really do that? And so, again, we come into a world where we're indoctrinated and we make a choice. Do we want to be indoctrinated and agree to these things and just, stick them in our subconscious and react to them? See, again, that's a conscious choice. So, uh, as you look at the world and the systems that have been created, they all look to ideas. The references that I'm providing are for the true reality, which is to be recognized. See, it's more than just accepting the idea of it. And so those ideas, as they come along in a person's life, for the most part, most people, you can see it in the world, they choose unconsciously to agree with these things. They just simply choose it because others do, or they have friends and this is what their friends do. And it's like, okay, I'll go along, we'll do this. And it's all fine. I feel good, whatever. Again, it's mainly about feelings. You add to the feelings of things. And so this is where actually the first, information or knowledge comes from, is the astral realm. Paul started off with that, with the spiritual exercise, the light. That was the astral light to start somewhere. And what has happened, just like in the corporation, they're still looking to the light, and it's the astral light. That's why they have this overall love idea, this personal idea. So there's another idea like faith and trust and what have you. But you take it a step further, and it takes a while because you have this personal self. It takes a while. So you can use those ideas if it's trust. It's like, I trust spirit, I trust the guides, I trust whatever, I trust life. Okay, you can use those ideas. But again, as you look at the sun shining, it's fine all the time. And it doesn't do anything, doesn't decide anything. It's always fine. And so as we have something, as you might say, a role model, something to go by, as an example here, especially because it makes sense. It really does make sense more than anything. But again, a person has to decide to see that and then decide to be it. So it's not just something you know. So the ideas of faith, hope, and belief and whatever, basically it's something that people know, and they attach emotion to it, so that seems to spark it. So really they have an emotional attachment to this idea, which let's say they call trust. So they say, well, I love the guides and I trust them. Okay. But is that the true relationship, you might say, with life and how it is, this emotional idea that the personal self hangs on to? Is that really it? Is that all there is? There is if you make the choice, but guess what? There is more. But you got to see it and recognize it. So we start off with these things, but then it gets better as we take the time to recognize what it really is. So again, when you look at the sun shining, does it use any of those ideas? No, don't use any of them, because it's being to being. It's like two suns in the sky and how they relate to each other. Being to being. They recognize each other. And that's what we are. We're free beings of real light. So we are life itself. We are the whole of life. It just depends upon how we want to recognize that. So we can go around and say that. Then it just formulates an idea. But the idea can only be a reference, not the reality. So it is learning to see it for what it is. So we are the next step. We are not the common whatever. The Nupresentation is not that. It is the next step into the unknown, the real and true unknown, not the dark and spooky unknown, which is right around us too, because most people cannot see through the system. So there is a spooky unknown there. that people get trapped in. But we are the real unknown that is everything, where you see everything. This is what's so cool about it. Or you stay with your personal self and all those ideas. So again, it's a choice, isn't it? Yeah, so it takes a while to recognize that. Once you do, you don't need any ideas. You don't need the five bodies because you're all awareness. You decide, your real position. That's UP, universal position, recognizing this. Yes. But in the meantime, we go through the process. Again, I have personal self. I have to deal with it. It's a funny thing. But it's not me. It's just something I have to deal with. And so, but we do play the game. It's like, okay, this is Duane, this is Ava, this is Charles. We do play this game, okay, with everybody. We don't want to scare them. But there's something so much better. But you got to learn to see it, Charles. Yeah. So this real education, it's huge. I don't give it any time limit. And a person has to be sincere. And to really see it, it has to come first. It has to be everything in your life. It's not something that you just do once in a while, like in the corporation where you're a member. Oh, you go to the seminars once in a while, maybe go to a little EC class or something as an example, or you go to your little spiritual meeting to do some meditation, aside from your personal life, which that really comes first. So we've done this for lifetimes, and no one has to do this. No one has to do this. It's just providing the opportunity. And so this window will be here for so long, and then we're going to move on. We've got a bigger adventure coming, huge. And so, but you got to see it. You got to prepare yourself. You got to get ready right now. So again, you decide, each person decides. They want faith, love, hope, and all these things. Have fun. Chase happiness, money, whatever. Yeah, it's already there, but you know what? There's a whole lot more that you've got to see. And if you don't see it, it's like it's not there. So yeah, go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, thank you, Duane.